Wow, here we are. We're at Sunset Sound. It's freaking boiling hot. It's Los Angeles and I'm wearing a black shirt. How crazy is that? This is going to be the most amazing day. We are here at Sunset Sound to record Van Halen 1 with the Los Rios Rock School. These kids are between 10 and 14 years old and they have rehearsed Van Halen 1. We're going to record it essentially live here in the studio. This is a huge deal. I'm very, very excited. We have original track sheets. Not much, they didn't take particularly great notes, but we have track sheets from the original session. So we set everything up as close as we can. We're in the same room, we're using the same mics, everything we possibly can. One of the biggest things is we have the same chamber for Eddie's guitar sounds. You know, we've got that, we've got the plates, you name it. It's gonna be fan-freaking-tastic. I'm so excited. So join us in this recording. A lot of fun stuff coming up. So here we're walking in. Here's the lounge. Follow me. Look at this. Van Halen 2. David Down. Van Halen Women and Children First. Where's Van Halen 1, I wonder? Oh look, there's a little album here called Led Zeppelin 4. Never heard of it. And Led Zeppelin 2. Fair Warning. All right, let's keep going. Follow me. Oh, that's pretty awesome. Dan Fogelberg, Neil Diamond. Yellow card, more yellow card. A lot of amazing things. So here we are. This is the control room. So there's a couple of incredible things to know about this. Firstly, that's probably most importantly, behind where Eric is filming in here is a chamber. And the chamber is not that big, but it's completely and utterly just a solid room. We'll go in there, it's like a... So why do you ask, am I talking about that? Well, I have a speaker at one end and at the other end is a microphone. And when you listen to like, You Really Got Me, and you hear that going off on the other side, when you listen to that on the Van Halen 1 record, that is the chamber. So we're going to have the guitar pan to the left, we'll have the chamber to the right. We're going to use the plate that they used on the snare. I mean, the drums are pretty dead on that album. We were just listening to it. There's actually a lot more bottom snare than I anticipated. So Jeff, who is going to be engineering it with me, he and I are going to, you know, get as close as we can. But we do have this. This is the only thing we have for setup that they took. This is the only studio notes. Obviously, it's a photocopy of the originals in the office over there, but it's interesting seeing how they recorded. We've got 3 microphones, so let's follow me. 3 microphones as overheads. Let's open the door for Eric here. So here we are, we're walking into the live room. So we got 3 414s as overheads. Pretty remarkable. We have top and bottom on every single tom. So we have 421s on the top, 57s on the bottom. This, I think, is the most crazy thing about everything, is there was 2 57s on the kick. 2 57s on the kick with a double kick pedal. Pretty amazing. So it's going to be fantastic. It's ultimately... Oh, the only other thing is that the drummer that is playing, he just turned 14. He actually uses 1 extra tom. So we're giving him the, you know, he's a 14-year-old, he's a fantastic drummer, but we're giving him the option to have that 1 extra tom, because Alex actually uses 4. But hey, this is definitely about making it as amazing as possible and getting the best performances. Now, Jeff, who's engineering, brought this in. This was part of Eddie's setup, so which is pretty fantastic. So we have that. Here, for those of you that recognize, this is a JMP, and it's of the year. It's actually my JMP, so those of you who watch Produce Like a Pro will know. So we got that with my Marshall, and it's 2 57s on it. So I've just got a bottom cab, and there's 2 57s, and that is, to everybody's recollection at Sunset Sound, that is how they did it. They did a high and low speaker. Obviously, we'll mess around with it and see if we can get the phase as great as possible, and when we come to mix it, obviously we'll blend and do whatever we like, but that's it, double mic'd. I don't usually double mic on 57s. Now, we are also going to use a Bad Cat amp, and the reason why we're doing this, these kids have learned this live. So what they've done is they have learned to play this as a whole band. Now, obviously, there's overdubs, occasional overdubs on this, so we're going to have 2 kids playing guitar. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have, you know, all of the solo stuff and everything on the Marshall, but there'll be some rhythm tracks that are being played with the Bad Cat. Now, you're going to hear Jeff and I talk about this later, but this room is really, really special. The live room is special, of course. It's Led Zepp 2, it's Led Zepp 4. You just saw all, or partial list. It's all the Doors records. It's Love Forever Changes. This actual booth here, this vocal booth, is where Jim Morrison sang. And the chamber and the plate are what we used on the vocals. The chamber very famously is used on all of the vocals on the Doors album. So that's fantastic. This also is the Eruption room. This is where they put the amp and how they recorded Eruption. We have an 87 out there, which is what is listed on the original track sheet. So what we're going to do is when we record Eruptions, we'll use the chamber like Eddie did, but we're also going to have the 87 in the room picking it up, because that's the only thing we can assume that he did when they said they used a room mic as well. There's some crazy, crazy things. The reverse at the beginning that starts off the song is a bunch of cars in a parking lot in a circle with a pair of 57s in the middle, and the horns, them hitting them, and then they flipped it and reversed it and then slowed the tape down. So I'm not sure off the top of my head how we're going to do that and whether we're going to have time to do it like that, but we might try it. It could be fun, but I'm not promising anything yet because we have a long day. We're going to track everything live, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so let's get back into the control room, and there's going to be loads of footage. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I really am excited. A lot of toms going up on here. We've got 3 overheads. We'll listen to the tracks, but what's really exciting is the overheads. The way that they originally mic'd like this with the 3, 4, 14s is pretty much an accurate representation of the drum kit. So you get all of the movement going around the toms. It was pretty remarkable how good it is. But those of you that know the album will know that this is not a traditional kick drum sound that you would, well, traditional is the wrong word. This is not a modern kick drum sound. It doesn't have that big boof, boof. It doesn't have that Metallica 40, 60 hertz, and then that massive scooping, and then that clicky 2.5 and 7K kind of Anthrax thing, which my friend Greg D'Angelo made quite famous. It's not that. It's a 70s sound. We're talking Van Halen 1 and 2, 77 and 78. So we're moving, it's more of a disco kit, if you like. That's contentious, but it's more of a 70s drum sound. So that would explain the 57s, and it would explain why it's more of a dock, 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 dock. So when we come to mix it, we're gonna probably use a Pultec on the 60 hertz. We might do it in the box. We get to get to that stage, but they're not big room drums. They're not massive room drums, and they don't have the super, super lows that modern rock albums have. So it's a very different kind of approach. And it's going to be a great experience for me to think that way, and a great experience for the kids, because they're not going to get this kind of experience. The way this was done was exactly the way we're doing it, which is everybody playing in the room and then overdubs or fixes. It wasn't a case of like laying the drums and then editing them, and then playing the bass and editing it. It was none of that. This was all done by people performing. And we are going to cut this record in a day, quite frankly in less than a day, because it's 12 o'clock now and we have drums loaded up and checked. We'll probably start tracking about 1-ish, and we'll probably be done by about 6 or 7. So in a half a day, day with setup and breakdown, we're going to track the whole album. Now, obviously that's a different feat, because the kids aren't writing the parts like Van Halen were doing. But Craig told me that those albums were done in 2 to 3 weeks, start to finish, and bearing in mind it's a lot of rock stars having fun, that's still pretty rapid by today's standards. So a lot of fun, excited to get going. This is going to be great. We're going to get a lot of footage. You're going to see the kids playing. It's really exciting. Hey, I'm Warren.
Warren here. This is Drew.
Drew, nice to meet you.
Yep. Julia.
Julia, how are you, Julia?
How are you?
Beautiful name, my mother's name.
And we got Connor.
Connor, nice to meet you. With an ER or an OR?
ER.
ER, Connor with an ER, okay.
Sophie Martin.
Sophie, lovely to meet you.
We got Will.
Hey Will, good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
We've got Thomas.
Hey Thomas, drummist.
Drummist.
Yeah.
And we've got
Ryan.
Ryan.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And Dylan.
And Dylan. Okay, so let's start again with who plays what? What do you play?
Guitar.
You're on guitar, great.
Yep.
Julia, guitar, fantastic. Connor,
Guitar.
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 Lots of guitarists.
Vocals.
Vocals, excellent.
Bass.
Bass, drums. Vocals. Oh wow! So the bass player and drummer are going to be on every track. They're going to be
playing
like.
acoustic.
Oh, you're playing
There you go.
acoustic.
Yeah, for the one song. Cool.
Okay, great. We should probably. What do you think they used on acoustic guitar? KM probably. Probably a Neumann KM 56, 54, something.
Yeah.
And we brought a Gibson Advanced Jumbo reissue, so it's
Lovely.
It should work fine.
All right.
Although what's interesting we're finding out is we have these track notes. So this is the track notes. This is basically all they had from the recording, but it's pretty ridiculous because everything is a SM58, like everything. It's like sorry, FM57. Like every single thing is mic'd with the same. So there's a lot of Shure microphones. Oh, it's 546s.
Yeah.
So it's like the budget version of the 57.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's probably what they had available.
Wow. So, but what's interesting with the drums for Thomas is there's 3 overheads. But it's like, these microphones, like 57s and stuff like that, you can get, Guitar Center does deals on them for like $79 once a year. I mean, they're probably only $100, you know, normal price anyway. So obviously you got beautiful console on old gear and all this kind of stuff, but it wasn't old in those days. It was new. we're working with vintage equipment, but in those days it was all brand new. So who here has actually ever recorded in a studio before? Anybody?
Home studio.
Home studio. So this is your first time in a real studio.
Well, they were with Phil Allen last week in our studio,
Right.
at Los Rios Rock School. Right. So, and he did some drills with them, punching in,
Great.
punching out, all of that.
So this room, I don't know if you've heard anything. So this room is, and you know what? I'm going to bring the floor to young Jeff because Jeff is a house engineer. He's going to be engineering. And so give us a quick lowdown. Who is recorded in this room?
This originally started as a Disney room, so all those old Disney movies and, you know,
Dumbo?
Snow White. Dumbo might be before this place. This started in '58. The Doors did all their albums here. Zeppelin did their album here. A couple things. Here.
2 and 4.
2 and 4.
They did a whole lot of love in this
A
room.
lot of love is this room. Stones have done a lot of stuff in this room.
Exile on Main Street.
Exile, everything after Paris or France.
Yep.
Pearl, Janis Joplin is this room. Buffalo Springfield, For What It's Worth, is this room.
You know that song?
James Taylor, Fire and Rain, is this room.
But that in that vocal booth in there, what was done in that?
That is where Eruption was recorded. So for the guitar
So
players.
who's playing Eruption?
Me.
So you're going to be recording in the same room.
Where, yeah.
You better get it
We
right.
need to
No
calm
pressure.
down. We need to do that at the end now.
Crack under pressure.
And yeah, that's Jim Morrison's vocal booth. That's a pretty historic little room.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, and Janis Joplin did Mercedes-Benz
Mercedes-Benz,
was
yeah.
recorded in that room. She sat in there with the acoustic guitar and recorded in that little booth there. So next time you hear, "Oh Lord, won't you buy me?" you can say you know where it is.
Yeah.
Love Forever Changes, which you may not know, but that's one of my favorite records. When I was sitting in England, it's a huge record for English guys of my kind of age group that grew up like doing new wave and punk. Love Forever Changes was Bruce Botnick. Bruce Botnick was Paul Rothchild's engineer. So he was the engineer that did all of the Doors records, even after Paul didn't do Love Parade.
I'm not sure.
Soft Parade. One of the albums Paul didn't do, but Bruce did it without him. Bruce arguably is one of America's greatest engineers, and this was kind of his unofficial home for many, maybe 20 years, 10 to 20 years. And if you can, listen to the albums Arthur Lee and Love. Arthur Lee unfortunately died a couple of years ago, but it is one of the best recorded, best sounding albums, and I think it's 68 maybe-ish.
I'm not sure.
But listen to it
The
now.
album and artist one more time.
It's Love Forever Changes. Arthur Lee and Love. It's one of the best sounding albums ever recorded, and it was recorded in this room by Bruce Botnick.
Cool.
So there's some incredible history. And this studio in general, all of the 3 rooms have insane stories. For more recent, like the big Dixie Chicks record was recorded in the back room, you know, that has, you know, I'm Not Ready to Make Nice. The whole documentary about that album was filmed in that room. But I think Studio 3 is fun because Prince lived in there for 2 or 3 years.
It's referred to as the Prince Room.
Because he had a bed in the studio.
And wasn't that was Bulls on Parade or one of the Rage albums done in there too?
Yeah. What is it? the Battle of Los Angeles is Studio 2.
Oh wow.
Sorry, the first album wasn't as big of a deal, but they're still gonna listen to it. Otherwise, they're gonna get kicked out of the school.
Audio Slave was in Studio 2.
Audio Slave, that's good. Oh, Slipknot.
Slipknot, the last Slipknot was Studio 2.
Did you help? Did you engineer on that one?
Yeah, I helped on that one.
Cool.
Definitely.
So you got all the triggers set up on the drums right now?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got Slipknot drum sounds. Yeah. This is the most famous room. Each of the rooms have incredible records done in them.
Oh, okay.
But I would say, or each of the room has incredible records done in them. The Prince room obviously has like 3 albums.
Yeah.
And it has,
But not always all of
1999,
them.
Purple Rain, and Parade.
so his 3 best albums.
Yeah.
So he did them in there. 1999 and Purple Rain. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a bed in there.
And he had a bed in there. He just basically stayed there, which is not unusual. I mean, like when I was in the record plant in Sausalito, you know, Rick James did. Oh, Sly lived in there while they did Fresh. I think those kind of artists, when they're making albums, they used to just live in a studio. And Prince was very famous for working 10 till 10 every day. So he'd wake up, have breakfast, 10 o'clock, start working. He was doing that right up until the day he died. But the thing about this studio is there's so much history, but this is the main room. This is the premium room. This is the one everyone wants to get into. And this is basically where my favorite living engineer, Joe Ciccarelli, he's a producer as well, but I say engineer not in a light way because the producer's always the big name guy. But as Jeff knows and I know from making many records, engineers shape the sound. Producers, we're here to like go, yeah, man, it was a great take, woo, yeah. But the engineers are the guys that really shape the sound. They place the mics, they do the compression, do the EQ.
So do the engineers have an American accent and then the producers have English accent? Is that how it works?
No, I think it's usually the other way around, actually. Yeah. No, but funnily enough, this is this is kind of their premium room. But this is where Joe Ciccarelli camps out, sometimes for months at a time. And listen to anything Joe Ciccarelli does, and you'll love it. And probably done in this room.
So when we're all done, we're gonna type up a little blurb for you guys, shoot it over, and you guys can Google each one of those names and albums and check that out.
Joe got started with Frank Zappa when he was 21 or something like that. So pretty
If
amazing.
you heard the latest Jason Mraz record, that was all Joe. So that's
Yeah.
a great sounding album.
It's a great, anything he does is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's one of my personal heroes. But I'm pretty systematic in my approach. When I was a kid, I grew up listening to Zeppelin and Queen were my favorite band, still are my favorite band. And of course the Beatles and the Stones, all the classic rock stuff. Even though my childhood is like late 70s through 80s, I was always kind of stuck in the 60s and the 70s, which I think is any of us who really love great music, because it doesn't matter if it's rock. We talk about Motown, you know what I mean? The 60s for Motown was just unbelievable.
Sophie loves Motown.
So I grew up like,
You always pick those songs.
I grew up loving those records, and of course, you know, there was that sort of there's a term they use in electronics, unobtainium. You ever heard of that? And people will say to you, "Hey, oh, you know, I want to get this channel," and you're like, "Well, the problem is it's made out of unobtainium," which is like because you know they can't make a lot of things. So for me, it's like I used to stare at the back of these albums, and I'd see like Trident and Olympic and Abbey Road, and that was all amazing. But that was all like down the street because I grew up in a little village that was 35 miles outside the centre of London. So in the back of my mind, it was maybe one day I'll be in London and I could be at those studios. But then I'd look at the back of the Doors records and some of the Stones stuff and Van Halen 1 and 2, and it'd be like Sunset Sound. It'd be like, ooh, where's that? And also Laurel Canyon always used to come up. So guess what? I work at Sunset Sound and I live in Laurel Canyon. That's no coincidence. Yes?
Are these the original notes for the...
They are the original notes. It's a photocopy of it, but it's the original notes. Yeah, of course. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy that that's all it was. It was like, yeah, this is what we did. Just quick, some notes. So we've also set up the slap for the vocals. Well, Jeff set it up because he's smarter than me. So what that is there's a tape slap here. See this tape machine?
Yeah.
So it's actually we're going to print a tape slap on all the vocal tracks.
Yeah.
Now, oh, you know what we should do? What we should do? So when we record the guitars, we're going to have the same sound as Eddie. So when you do a Rapture and everything, it's going to be. But look, it's not that big. It's pretty crazy.
Whoa.
So it sounds massive.
It smells like my grandma's basement in Iowa.
So if you guys want to come in, maybe 1 or 2 at a time.
Yep.
Look around. Don't touch the mics and stuff because
They're all set up.
Sounds good.
Wow.
So you're going to have like da-na-na-na-na, and you'll get the.
No.
Who's playing It Really Got Me rhythm? You are?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be on the main guitar parts. Yeah. Jeff and I are talking here about, we're recording to Pro Tools. We're recording digitally, obviously using, 192s?
Yeah.
So, two things. When I first started recording, everything was on tape, and we used to boost the top end like crazy, because when it played back, it was always duller. So, we're going to mix this, probably using tape emulations to get that same sound. We're going to have some fun with this. This is going to be a lot of fun because we're recording in a digital way, but with the same room, with the same microphones, pretty near as damn it, with the same kind of mic, everything exactly as close maybe as you can get it. But the reality is the one biggest difference between what we're doing today and with what Eddie and the boys did 40 years ago, is they recorded onto tape. So it's going to be interesting. When we come to mix, we'll try some tape emulations. So it's going to be a great exercise in learning, what that really does. What does tape do? What does tape emulations do? And how well do they work?
It's really bitey
Yeah.
in this way.
Can I hear one at a time?
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun because we're going to have the ability to emulate this. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So we won't be using click, but you have control over everything. You can build your own mix. So you can lean on yourself. A lot of people just have drums, get the rhythm going. Verb is going to be a blend of everyone, so it'll just be effects. So probably the singer's going to drown in that a lot. And then this guy will be overall volume. Any questions? Nothing? That's it? So no questions when we start. Everything's going to run flawlessly.
Bass, guitar
Well,
one,
what
guitar
did you
two,
just
kick,
talk about?
snare,
So
hi-hat,
then we have control
vocal.
of our own mix, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we can choose what we hear.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't hear enough guitar, what are you gonna do?
I turn up my guitar.
Great.
If you hear too much
say,
guitar.
Jeff, it's not working, Jeff.
Yeah.
please."
There is a chance. These are old mixers that something might not be working. So if you are having a problem, do say something. Don't spend a whole day with not being happy in your headphones because no one wants that.
And you've got basic EQ as well. So you want more bottom end on your bass.
And you do have
Then you can put more bottom end on your bass.
Volume-wise too, so you don't have to blast it. Tell them what comfort zones for headphones.
well, the usual thing is because you guys are going to be next to a drum kit, so you're not going to need a lot of drums. So basically, just get enough volume to hear everything else over the drums and kind of a blend of that. And then if you happen to do an overdub where there are no drums in the room, you're probably going to have to push the drums back up. If you're too loud in your own mix, you might shy off the mic and not project. So that's something to think about, in the scheme of things. And more reverb might help you also project and feel more comfortable.
If you're super loud, you'll be like dun 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 dun. If you're like, you'll be like dun dun dun. You'll dig in a little heavier if you're in a bit. But yeah, I would say generally guitar-wise, don't be blaringly loud because you'll play hesitantly. And you won't notice, but trust me, you'll listen back to the final mix and you'll go, oh, I sound bored. And bear in mind, these guys, even though they were tracking to a click, they may not have been, but the tracks that they were tracking to a click, there was no way to fix it afterward. So it is 1:51 in the morning. What can I say? It's been a long day. We landed in at 10 a.m., although you already had mics set up when I got here at 10.
Yeah.
So what time did you get here?
I don't know,
8?
8-ish, a little earlier, probably.
So like 8 till 2. Yeah, that's a good rock and roll day.
Oh, these mics are still up. So.
Yeah, the mics still up. You're going to be here for another hour afterwards. Yeah. So, 3.
Yeah.
So minus 5, it's a 19-hour day. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we have cut the whole of Van Halen 1 in this room. We did backgrounds just now, and we did the car horn intro.
Yes, we
The
did.
legendary car horn intro.
Not many have done that.
Yeah. So it's cars surrounding a microphone in the parking lot, which is supposedly the intro to the whole album.
Yeah.
So hopefully it works. We did it. It's pretty funny actually. Anyway, so we're going to do a quick 2-minute talk about the drum miking here. So we're in Studio 1, the most famous studio here, which is where the first album was done. Subsequently, all the rest of the albums were done in Studio 2, weren't they?
Yes, from what I understand, maybe Van Halen 2 is kind of a mix of both, but everything after that is pretty much 2.
Yeah, Fair Warning was 2.
Fair Warning, Diver Down, Women and Children First is 2.
which is great rooms.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Simon Phillips' kit. Just so many toms. Now, we do have one extra tom. Our young drummer Thomas added this little baby here, which is 8 by the looks of it. 8, 10, 12, 14, 16? Is that an 18?
So.
Yeah, it's a 16. So he likes to go up 2 inches at a time. And the miking is exactly the same as the original, except we're using 57s
Instead of 546s.
which were like the budget Shaw 57s, which is pretty crazy. So it's 421s on the top, 57s underneath all the toms. So 421s, 57s. 57 top and bottom on the snare. The hi-hat mic is the same as listed on the track sheets as a 451, so AKG 451s. And the overhead mics are exactly what's listed as 414s. The most interesting thing, though, about this kit, most of this is pretty typical. I actually would never use a 57 on the bottom of the tom, but we did, and it works. But what has been the most interesting is the kick drum. Let's go and look at what happened with the kick drum. Nobody in their right mind we thought would ever do this, but they did. There's a pair of 57s. There's a 57 inside the kick and a 57 there on the outside, on the hole. So 2 57s.
Which sounded pretty Van Halen-y.
It sounded really good, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
It had that kind of low, middly, thumpy, well, like
a lot of
100
cut,
hertz.
yeah. But it cut. It did better than I expected, definitely.
It's going to be interesting we mix, because we're going to mix it in a couple of weeks. Come back here and mix it. Because the record doesn't have like 40 or 60 hertz thumping like modern rock record does. So it's more about 80 lowest, probably about 100 I would go, 110 maybe, that kind of kind of thing. All right, the only other mic is an 87. This was the room mic they used, and it's in figure of 8, which is actually kind of nice. If you're a mono, high figure of 8 is going to be good because you're going to get all of the ambience from this side and obviously the direct from that. If you use only a direct mic and you're not in figure of 8, you won't get the benefit of what's going on over here. You're just going to hear it directly, so you're not really going to have a room mic as such. You're just going to have what would you call that, like a accent miking. That's what I'm looking for. You have direct miking when you come something, and then you have accent mic when you pull back a few feet. And this is more than a few feet, but this is like an exaggerated accent, only in cardioid. But because it's in figure of 8, we get all of this. We get the sound of the drums coming back. So it makes this really a lot more useful. So if you are in a room where you've only got one mono room mic, this is a good way to do. Go to figure of 8. So yeah, pretty special. I mean, it's very simple. As many toms as they are, I mean, it's 421s toms, SM57s on the bottom, SM57s on the top and bottom of the snare, and 2 SM57s on the kick, and 414s, 3 414s. And these are old ones. They could well have been the mics they used on the record.
From the photos I saw, they're those mics.
So those are the actual mics.
Or at least they're of the mics Sunset had. I don't know if they're these specific ones because they didn't have numbers then. But they could very well be. They didn't. They don't have new 414s. So the same ones from the era. No, these are the old ones.
So they're probably the mics they used.
So
yeah, it's just crazy. All of the same mics. A lot of 57s. Some 421s. A 451, and it's just AKG, Shaw, and Sennheiser. God bless it. Anyway, it's been a long day and night. It is now 2 a.m. and we are going to wrap it up. So thanks for watching. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing.